So here's a great example of a Google form quiz. So here I've got a Coulomb's law practice Google form where my students are going to be using Coulomb's law to try to solve a series of different questions that I've posed to them. So I set it up here with a period question. So which period are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. First name, last name. And then I kind of give them some instructions that they're forced to really read through. So if I'm looking at this like a student, it says these practice problems are worth 1/3 of your lab grade. Do you understand? And it's got two check boxes. One says, yes, I understand these practice problems that will not tell me if they are right or wrong will count as 1/3 of my grade. When they check it, it says you have to select both. So then they read and it says, but I also understand that Mr. Polano has provided me with resources and hints on the next section to help me get to the correct answer. So when the students click next, there's much different resources here. So I've included a YouTube video that's going to be really helpful for the students as I introduce this topic to them. I've put this image here that talks about the formula for Coulomb's law, what each of those different variables means, and the different constants that might be represented here. I've also got some additional resources that they can look at. If they go to this link, there's a file inside of my Google Drive that I've hyperlinked. So Google Forms gives you the ability to really include a lot of information inside of this. I've got some more instructions here. It says for all the fill in the blank questions below, give your answer using 3 digits in scientific notation. Should follow the form 1, 2, 3 times e to the -4th, whatever. So some different answer choice options here. I've got multiple choice where the students can select. Okay. I've got a couple of free response questions here where it'd be like typing in their responses. So once they've gone through and they've answered all of the questions, I will see all of their responses on my end under this responses tab. And this responses tab is really cool because I get a great kind of bird's eye view of how my students performed. So I can do some analysis on my end and see, hey, what are some things that they do understand? What are some things that they don't understand? And even like, I love this frequently missed questions box where it's going to tell me specifically, hey, your students are really struggling with this. Only 51 out of 104 students understood this one. But I can see that my students averaged about a 73. The median score was a 75. And then there was a range of anywhere between a 20 and a 100 on this assignment. I can see my students' responses by their email address here. And then once I've graded all of them, I can release the scores back to them and it will send them an email so that they're able to see what they got. Now, when I set up this Google form, I set this up as a quiz. So what that means is each of these questions has an answer key on it. So when I click on this first question, there's an option that says answer key, and I've selected which one is the correct answer. Once I release the scores back to the students, they can see what they responded with, and they can see what the correct answer was. That goes for our free response questions as well. Under my answer key, I've got a whole bunch of different answers that I've listed as being correct because it might depend on what the student enters in. Now, I'm a physics teacher, so I'm looking for a specific answer, but it might be, English teachers or a history teacher that the students are going to respond with some sort of like an essay or an open-ended question. And I need to be able to find a way to grade all of these questions relatively quickly. So that's where this response tab comes in. I can go into the responses and I can view the responses by question. So I can go into, let's say, question number 6, I think it was. How about question 7? There we go. So as students respond, I can go in and I can mark it as either correct or as incorrect. So here I've marked it as correct, and I see that 56 students responded with this exact same answer. But then there's also going to be situations where only one student responds with this specific answer. If I have a set of students that are sending in essays, I can read through the essays and I can give partial credit. So I can say, hey, you were close. I'm going to give you 5 points out of 10. Or I can just give them the full credit or no credit at all. But I can go in and I can check yes or no. And the nice part is when you have, 56 of the same responses, you don't have to click it 56 times. It's just, it's going to lump all of the answers together that are alike. So check X, check X, check X. And then once I make these changes, I click save, and it's going to take me to my next question. I can also see which students responded based on their answer. So here I've got a multiple choice question, which should have been pretty easy. I can go in and I can look at which students got it correct. And I can go in and I can see which students got it incorrect. So then I can pull those students for some intervention, and I can, maybe put them into different small groups so I can address, hey, when we have both charges are going to be the same, either positive or negative, we can talk about how that's a repulsive force as opposed to, a positive and a negative that are going to attract towards one another. And I can go through each one of these questions. I can also grade these individually. So I can go based on the individual student, and I can see how that student performed, and I can grade them one at a time. Okay. And then I can go and I can see what their score is at the end of it. So they got 100 out of 100 points, which is pretty good. And I can release the score to them. This is super useful when you have students that have turned in assignments late. The nice part about Google Forms is it's going to give you a nice timestamp over when those students respond. So super useful there. Additionally, Google Forms is going to put all of the answers into a nice spreadsheet. So depending on your students, I've got 100 different responses here, and it's going to put everything into a big spreadsheet for me. And I've got a separate video that I'll do that will discuss how you can go into the spreadsheet and view data and analyze it a little bit differently inside of here.